Welcome, Drink with James, episode 160. It is 9:45 in the morning. This is iced coffee. Don't worry, Mom, I'm not drinking at 9:45. We were supposed to film one in the Hamptons last week. Our company went out to one of our employees has a family house out in the Hamptons. A bunch of us went out there for the day. We were going to film Drink with James, and then just decided to enjoy being by the beach and swimming in the pool instead. And so here we are at 9:45. We're filming this thing. We're going to turn it around in a couple hours, get it up for you guys today. So this is as close to live as we will hopefully get, as I can use some editing. Tim is constantly pulling stuff out of here that will probably get me in trouble. And if you think I curse a lot in the final version, I'm sure the editing floor has a lot of F-bombs littering it. So I just got back from Costa Rica. I was there for a week. I was up near Liberia in the kind of northern part of it. I saw monkeys. There was actually howler monkeys, a family of howler monkeys with 2 babies living in a tree next to our house. I learned to communicate with the monkey, which I was really proud of. I could get them to answer me. Now, like the guides or people that we had, there were some Costa Ricans who had like amazing howler monkey calls. I could only do the beginning of it, which is just the like deep part of the like, that. And then they do this like sucking in thing that sounds like a very long burp, which I could not do, but you should look it up. I think in the jungle, it can be heard for 3 miles. It's one of the loudest like animal calls that there is. Only the males, can do the like howler weird burp call. But it was amazing. You could sit there and kind of, I say talk to them, but they probably thought there was another male close by, and so they were trying to say, hey, get away from my family. So it's probably just pissing them off, so try not to do it too much. But the proximity to nature in Costa Rica was incredible. Again, there was howler monkeys in our yard. There were, at some point we were like floating in the pool and there were like 5 turkey vultures sitting on the edge of the pool, which was concerning because it was like, do we look that close to death that the vultures are already circling us? But I saw the monkeys, the like white-faced Capri something monkeys. I don't know what they're called, but they're the like guys from like Night at the Museum. Not that I've seen that, but they said they were in that. And Pirates of the Caribbean. They're like little tricky, very curious monkeys. I saw crocodiles. I saw a humpback whale, which was pretty cool. Did I see another? I don't know. I saw a shitload of birds and stuff. So it was cool. Less cool was like the fact that, every time you woke up, there was like scorpions all over your room when you woke up in the morning. There was a fucking tarantula, like hairy ass, disgusting spider crawling around the house at some point.
You told me it wasn't that big.
No, it was, in my mind it was that big. Any tarantula, it doesn't matter how big it is, it's too big. But if you haven't been to Costa Rica, it was lovely. You have to probably like, lots of ecotourism. You're looking at fucking animals and plants. You're riding ATVs through the jungle, things like that. But it's a good trip. I'm excited to be back, only for a few days. Off to Bangladesh on Friday. If you have any suggestions on things to watch on my 36 hours of flying that I have in a week in coach, please let me know, because I think I will need a new series or something to binge while flying over there. Anyway, we got to do 2 of these this week, so I'm not going to run my mouth too much. Also, Brian's got to turn this thing around in a few hours, so we're going to try and zoom through it so we can get this published. Let's just jump into questions. question number one, what are some out-of-the-box ways to get the attention of a brand you want to work with? Let's first talk about some in-the-box ways to get brands' attention. So the first thing, and we've talked about this before, if you want to work with a brand, the best way to get their attention is to start working for the brand. All right, we do this all the time at Four. Sometimes we'll want to work with a client, we'll be in the kind of middle of a pitch, and they'll have something coming up that they could potentially use help with, and we just help them. You know, they've got an event that Friday in a store in Dallas, and we will send them, 100 of our influencers from Dallas that we think would want to go to the event. Or they are looking for an intro to a specific influencer, and we help kind of broker that for them. We just kind of start working for brands before we're paid. And what I say to the sales team is that we assume the sale, right? We just are saying, hey, we're going to work together. Like, I know that like we have to work this through legal and you have to go through your boss and all these things to get it approved, but we're confident that we're going to work together. And so in good faith, we're just going to start working for you. As an influencer, especially if you have, a following that's substantial, let's say it's over 30, 40,000 followers, your biggest tool at your disposal is that following and your ability to just talk about the brand. If they're a bigger brand, they're probably not going to see your post, unless they have a social team that's like really on top of it. They're probably not going to see your post, especially if it's in a story. So I encourage you to post about the brand, send that post to them, send any comments, highlight comments that you got that are product specific, not comments from your influencer friends that are meant to look good. Again, just as a side caveat, like everybody sees through that. So everyone in the industry sees through when you do a sponsored post or work with a brand and all your influencer friends comment on it saying, oh my God, I love that. I need to buy that. I love that product. I love those shoes. Like, we know that you're doing that to make the comments look better. And I don't think you're doing yourself a favor. In fact, I think it makes you look less influential. It makes it look like you're part of, whether or not you are part of it, it makes you look like you're part of a comment pod of influencers who are commenting product-focused comments to try and make the comments section look more appealing to brands. So that's like detour over, we'll get back onto it. So posting about the brand, first and best thing that you can do. Send an email with the post, any comments, DMs, information that you had, whatever it is, to make yourself look good and say, hey, I've been a fan of this brand. Here's a post I recently did. Here's the comments. My audience loves it. I'd love to work with you, love to get on a call with you and hear what you guys have going on. There's also on Four, there's content search. So if you haven't been to Four recently and you haven't done a content search, go into your profile and scroll down to the content section where you have most engaged content and recent sponsored posts. Under there is a bar that says search your Instagram. Type in any brand that you post about, and it will open up a page that you can then generate a report and send to a brand to say like, hey, here is, I've talked about your brand 40 times in the last 3 years. Here's all of those posts with the average engagement rate and the total impressions. Those reports are great. I know that Jess Kirby used it not too long ago to get a collaboration with Barber. She went, searched, said, hey, I've been talking about this brand for years, sent it to the brand. They paid attention, opened up a dialogue, and she started working with them in an official capacity. So that is the easiest and best way. I don't think that when you think about like out of the box ways, I don't think you have to get too gimmicky to work with a brand that you want to work with. I find in general that most brands are pretty accessible, right? Like these departments are pretty small. They don't actually get a huge amount of inbound interest that is like real. So my girlfriend works in marketing for fashion beauty brands, and she'll sometimes forward me emails from influencers. 98% of them are an email that says, hey, love the brand, would love to collaborate. Like that is not an email that will ever get a response. And so when I say brands aren't getting a lot of inbound, they're not getting a lot of inbound that is thoughtful and worth paying attention to. So I think what you can do to stand out outside of the box is just spend some time and put a thoughtful email together, pull the content, together that you've already created for the brand, do something to show that you actually care. You don't want it to look like, and it shouldn't be, a mass outreach, right? When bloggers, like, if you've ever gotten an email that says like, "Dear blogger," where it's clear that like in an Excel sheet, instead of your first name, they have blogger, and then they sent a mass email out and they didn't change that. Like, that's really frustrating because it feels impersonal. And the same is true for brands, right? Like, if you just say, "Hey, love your brand, we'd love to collaborate," it doesn't matter if you have 500,000 followers, that's probably not going to get a response. So instead of telling you that you should be doing some crazy thing to work with a brand, and I think that you should get good at doing the simple things, and building a case that shows the brand that you care about them, that you're passionate about what they do, and that you really do want to work with them, and your motivations are not just monetary. While obviously you're entering into a business relationship, and that means that there has to be some payment on their side, be it through product or money. You don't want to reach out and have it feel like, "Hi, pay me." That is never really going to work. So outside of that, if you're a bigger influencer and you're looking for a big partnership, and that is going to be, let's say, over $20,000, $30,000, so a long contract term, for a lot of money, you can also always go above the person that you may be working with and might be making that decision, right? So one kind of out-of-the-box method might be to try and reach out to the CMO or reach out to the CEO. Again, you guys get a lot of email and you read most of your emails. And so while it will be difficult to get a response from the CEO of a large organization, or me, because I'm terrible at email, it doesn't mean that they didn't read it and that they won't forward it along. We had an issue with a bank years ago where we had a bunch of money stolen from us, and I was having trouble getting it back. And I emailed the CEO of one of the largest banks in the world every day for 14 days in a row. And eventually somebody emailed me back, said, "Hey, the CEO has sent your messages, let's talk." And that connection led to a resolution of the issue, and is a lesson in that everybody is accessible in some way, and if you really want something, you can definitely get someone to at least read your email. So don't be afraid to go to the top if you really want to work with a brand, because the higher up you go in an organization, especially if it's a founder, they appreciate hearing those stories of people that genuinely love their brand. And so, if you're not getting something from the person that does the influencer work at a certain brand, email the CEO. And not about wanting to collaborate, but about how much you love the brand and all the work that you've done and how you just respect what they've done. Make it about them and not you. But a lot of ways to get in there. The first thing you want to do, though, when you're trying to work with a brand is you need to build a relationship. So you have to get them to answer that email. So just keep plugging away and trying. Question number 2 is, what do you do when your morals don't align with the brand's morals that you're working with, and how do you address that? This is obviously a question that's been asked because of things that have been in the news cycle recently. And I just spoke to Glossy. We can put a link to that article up. I just spoke to Glossy about this same kind of issue of what do you do as an influencer when a brand's morals or behavior don't align with yours. I think, one of the great things about this industry, the best things about it, is that it is full of individuals, and that those individuals are generally autonomous and are in charge of their own destiny, and can, have the flexibility to say what they believe in without any corporate oversight. And so I think as an influencer, you have a responsibility to your audience to be true to your morals and to be true to your code of ethics and the things that you believe in, the things that you think are okay and the things that you think are not okay. And if you are a customer of a brand and you're working with them and you don't believe in what they're doing, or you find that their morals aren't aligned with yours, it is 100% your right to walk away from that partnership or stop being a customer of that brand. It is your right to talk about that on your channels and tell your audience why you are not aligned with that brand. I will caveat it by saying that this is also your business, and as you grow as an influencer and as your business grows, you have to think about you shouldn't compromise your morals in pursuit of capital, but you should remember that this is a small industry, and make sure that if you're going to exit a partnership because of something in the news, because of some morality issue, to make sure that you do it in a way that is as kind of classy and fair as possible. These issues are not new, right? We have H&M, Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Prada, like all of them doing things that are insensitive and that cause a well-deserved uproar on the internet. But I think it's important to remember that the people you are working with, the people you're actually working with at the brand, that are working on the contracts, that are your day-to-day contact, they probably had absolutely nothing to do with any of that, right? And I feel for the social teams and the PR teams at these brands, because they're probably going through the same moral and ethical struggles that you as an influencer are, except for them, taking a stand would mean quitting, which would mean all of their income disappears. Whereas an influencer, if this brand is, let's say you work with 100 brands a year, well, it's 1% of your income. It's much easier to take a stand when it's 1% of your income versus 100%. So I feel for those in-house teams that get this thing thrown on them that was not their fault, and they have to deal with it, and they are taking the hate and like acid from the mob. So I think that if you are going to step away from a paid partnership that you're contracted for, one, absolutely speak to the teams first. Speak to the teams on those brands. Do not, if a brand is finding out you're walking away from a partnership from your post, you have made a huge misstep. So let those teams know. Email them, try and get on a call. That's not an in-person, but that is a conversation that should, I think, be had on the phone. I think you owe them that at least to talk through it. And I think that there is a way to walk away from these partnerships in a way that you continue to be in service to your morals and your ethics and the way you see the world, without joining the mob in bashing a company unnecessarily more than it needs to be, right? You can say, hey, you guys know I've been working with this brand. You've seen the news. I'm no longer working with this brand. That is very different than, going on a huge tirade. And again, I'm not saying that is not ever justified. And we have seen, that influencers and celebrities have real power in this space. And when they stand up and say, hey, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to lose out on money because I believe so strongly that what this brand is doing is wrong. I think that is a very just and honorable and admirable thing to do. I just think that you need to also just make sure you give the teams that you're working with a chance to know that's coming, and not be blindsided by it, because they will have long memories about this, and they might go somewhere else, and you don't want to get the reputation of being unfair or reactionary inside the community, because again, it is a small community. I will also say on the brand side, in our contracts, we have morality clauses. We have the ability, as do our clients, to walk away from an influencer who we feel like is, their actions or beliefs are not in line with ours or our clients, or their actions are negatively impacting our business or our client's business. And so I think it is totally valid as an influencer to kind of have those same morality clauses and know that, like, hey, if you do anything that I don't agree with, I'm allowed to walk away from this. So. Coming off of that, how do we use our feeds and the power that we have for good? In my career on the internet and running this business, I have not done as much philanthropy as I could and probably should do. I have, talked about the things I'm passionate about, like the fact that Trump is a white nationalist, racist, bigoted asshole. That we need stronger gun control laws, that people shouldn't be persecuted based on where they're from or the color of their skin or their religions, that women deserve equal rights and equal pay. Any number of issues I've been vocal about, but I don't really have a huge platform. It's easy for me to be vocal about those things. We are doing this trip to Bangladesh this week. We're bringing 3 influencers with us. It is not going to be an easy trip. It's not going to be a normal press trip. There's no, we've already talked to the influencers. There's no outfit post. There's no Bangladeshi skincare routine. We are going there to, one of the gravest humanitarian crises in the world right now, to watch and see the work that this charity is doing, and to hopefully try and, 1, raise money so that they can do more of that work, and 2, bring awareness, maybe more importantly, bring awareness to the work that they're doing and start that conversation. I think that as influencers, you underestimate the power that you do have, right? Like, if you look at AOC and the new Green Deal, right, which isn't even a bill, it's not an actual thing, it's just a loose, I don't even know what the parliament, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Parliament. I don't even know what the thing is actually called, what the new Green Deal is, but, and yes, everyone's like, hey, it's not possible. And right now it's not possible, right? It's like, oh, it'll never get passed in Congress. It's like, right, it's not even a bill. So it can't get passed. It's not a thing that can get passed, but it is driving the conversation. It did put climate change into the front seat of the news cycle for quite some time. And it, I think, is forcing Democrats especially to move farther left on global warming and our response to it. And in that, it's massively successful. And I think as influencers, if you can move your audience a little closer to an issue, or you can get them talking about it with their families or their friends or their loved ones or their colleagues, you're doing your job. And so again, the easiest thing you can do is to become educated on the things that you're interested in and passionate about. And if you build a following, I think you have to care about more than makeup or clothes, and those things are massively important. I believe that. I obviously wouldn't dedicate my life to this business if I thought that what y'all did was silly or stupid. I think it's really important, and just reading the testimonials that influencers have been getting, it's clear how much impact you have over people's lives in building self-confidence and not feeling like they're alone. And I just implore everyone to, if you're not naturally political, that's totally fine. You don't have to talk about politics, but become aware of the issues in the world and read up on them and see if you connect with some of them and if you become passionate. And then I implore you to talk about them, and then to give your feed over to talking about those issues, even if it's going to cause you to lose followers, even if those posts aren't going to do as well. I think you have a responsibility to talk about it. And in the same way that like philanthropy is a counterbalance for extreme wealth, right? Like, and this is a system, this is something that, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders would say, is broken, and how our economy is rigged, in that like philanthropy has to step in where government maybe should be if the super rich paid more taxes, but they have so much money, so much wealth, that there is a moral imperative to give some or all of that away for them to be able to like continue to live their lives. It's like anyone who's that rich has done probably terrible things to get that rich, and their businesses are probably ruining people's lives and the planet. And so they have to counterbalance that with philanthropy. Now, as influencers, you have a different kind of wealth. You have the wealth of attention. You have more attention on your life than most people. You are in the 1% of the world as far as the platform that you have. And I think there is a similar imperative to use that platform for good and for something that is not in service of you and your bank account and your stature in the world. And I hope that with the trip we're doing to Bangladesh, it's the start of many things like this that we are doing, and more influencers are doing, because I also believe, that using your platform is great, but I do think that there is more that influencers can and should be doing, and I think it will be harder and harder as an influencer to continue to enjoy the success that you do without doing those things, without the, at least using your platform to shed light on issues that are important to the broader world. And my last point is like, it doesn't have to be political, right? Like countries being ravaged by disease and poverty, that is not a political issue, right? Nobody thinks that children should be starving in other countries, right? Like that is not political. You don't have to talk about Trump. You don't have to talk about, even the things happening in this country. There are a lot of great organizations, and they make it really easy now. You can post on your stories. There's a donate button. You can pull up almost any charity, and you can raise money through Insta Stories without a swipe up. It's really simple. You can do that today. So I implore you to do that. And I think all of us, need to, especially as we start to come into some success, think about how we are going to share that with people who are less fortunate. Because in many instances, we just won a lottery of like where you were born, to what parents, and what station in life. And I think the sooner you kind of recognize that and try and spread the love and the wealth and whatever you have to give, better the world will get. So I have a full day of work. Brian has a lot of editing to do. I've got to finish this coffee. That's all.